he sort of orients towards the ocean. Anyway, so much talent. And I've just been, I'm getting round to this, just been with the help of Rachel, who came up with us, and Emma, and Paul came up, and Scott preceded us, been back to the Kimberley. And just yesterday, had the great pleasure of launching the Kimberley campaign for the election next March here in Western Australia. And you know what? You know, you'd think Kimberley, Greens, there is a real buzz up there. And I'm not just talking about from the Greens, because I've gone and listened to a few other people, that the Greens could win that seat at the next election. And one of the key reasons, and that's always a big ask. We're not talking about downtown central urban Australia, where you expect the Green vote to be the highest. We're now talking about a place that's as far from a capital as you can get in this nation. But there's, amongst the great policies on public education and health, on, for example, ensuring dental care at a national level, on a taxation system that just doesn't pump up the GST and make it harder for poor people, but says let's take money from the mining wealth and ensure we do educate the next generation instead of being one of the slackest, most money-pinching failures to properly fund education of any of the OECD nations, which is Australia 2012. I do agree with Rupert Murdoch that we should be putting and Mr. Gonski, we should be putting another $5 billion into education for starters in Australia. And I'm meaning there in particular public education, where 70% of kids still go. Phenomenal work that our Greens MPs here in Perth and Rachel and Scott over in Canberra are doing for Indigenous Australians. There's a two-word reason why there's a revolt in the north, and it's gas hub. They hate it up there. I went up 18 months ago as Woodside was considering this project, and was taken by Joseph Rowe and given a very brief introduction to the songlines and that living relationship with the land of the Indigenous people in that tract of country south and north of Broome. James Price Point is 60 kilometres north of Broome. And we went back there day before yesterday, and this time got taken down onto the beach by the Indigenous scientists, and this is a science that goes back thousands of years, and we're shown, Rachel's got pictures of this, and you may have seen it, but there's basins in, you think it's a rock pool, but it's not. It's where a dinosaur, little one, that could fly with feathers, was rolling around like birds do in the dust, you see them now, 135 million years ago. And the feathers are there in front of you. And right next to that are the biggest dinosaur footprints on the planet. Get this, they're 1.4 metres across. That's the foot coming down. On top of that is 30 metres of dinosaurs. Now we had to look around and fortunately didn't see one of them while we were up there. The point here is though, and you'll have read this in the media, is that this is the one place in the world where the Indigenous culture and these prehistoric dinosaur prints intermix. the one flows from the other. And when the scientists went to Broome after the first non-Indigenous people saw these prints, I think it was some Girl Guides or Scouts in 1935, to look for themselves, they quickly found that the Indigenous people knew all about it. Now there's going to be much more scientific information comes out about this phenomenon. These prints are for 200 kilometres along this coast. And you know what they're going to do right in the middle of that? Put a mega gas hub. Woodside wants to put it there. Though I suspect Woodside more and more would wish it was right on the outside somewhere else they were going. Problem. And his name is Premier Barnett. Now I've run into him, and Margaret and Peter, amongst others, have run into him before. I'm not necessarily Buddhist in this. The name of the previous incarnation of Premier Barnett was Premier Whispering Bulldozer Robin Gray in Tasmania. He's still around, so the theory gets a bit... However, in 1982, when he got elected, he not only gave the go-ahead for the Franklin Dam, but he sent the bulldozers in down the Franklin Valley. And it looked totally hopeless for us opposing the dam. I, for one, had just lost the election in the seat in which I stood. We'd been routed, and the courts had thrown us out, and the upper house didn't have a single person supporting us. The three newspapers, on and on it went. Looked dreadful. But 18 months later, the dam was stopped. And there was a vital factor here, and that was that not only were the bravehearts of Tasmania, over 20,000 turned out in one rally in Little Hobart, didn't have 200,000 people to protest against the dam, but being bulldozed by a premier who thought he was right and everybody else was wrong. Well, it turns out it was the other way round. And a lot of tearing out of hair and waste of taxpayers' money occurred before it finally was put right. I think Premier Barnett's on exactly the same losing trajectory.